Hello fellow adventurers and collectors, Filmaholic here. Today we're going to be going over my submission for the G.I. Joe The Lost Chronicles No Joe G.I. Joe challenge. Now, even though I'm not a part of the Axis of Awesome, or at least I don't think so, I haven't been indoctrinated or anything, but I saw that they had presented this challenge, and I figured I'd take the opportunity to see what I could come up with and essentially, test my creative abilities. And as you'll see here, I kind of failed. But that's beside the point. The first step here was essentially to get rid of the flocking. I had this head floating around in my parts bin, and I figured it'd be the perfect opportunity to get some use out of it. So if you haven't seen the Skunkworks tutorial on it, basically you get some isopropyl alcohol, soak it in that, and it'll come off easily. So that's what I did, and my idea was to modify this head so that it can fit on a normal, more modern 1/6 scale body. And I have various 1/6 scale bodies in my parts bin, so I happened to come across this knockoff Hot Toys body. It's a generic body you typically see when you look up 1/6 scale figure on eBay or something like that. I'm not entirely sure how it came across in my collection, probably from some lot or something like that, but I figured it'd be an opportunity to get some use out of it. It unfortunately did break, and I did end up modifying it so it looked more natural, even though I kind of failed at that too. But it's a whole learning process, and as you can see here, this is me testing it on the body, and ultimately I have to paint the head and the body just so it can match and it doesn't look so disjointed with the peachy head on a tan body. But this is an idea I might revisit because I do like the concept of modifying an old G.I. Joe and making it more contemporary, but I'm not entirely sure which direction I would go in for that, because I kind of feel bad taking apart a perfectly usable G.I. Joe head, so maybe I'll lean towards a reproduction head or something if I do revisit this concept. But I did try to rectify the broken arm, but ultimately it was more trouble than it was worth, because you were going to lose the bicep swivel, and I just didn't think it was going to be worth that. So ultimately I used some milliput to fill in the gaps on that side, and some aluminum this time. I didn't just use milliput to waste material, but as you can see, I also ended up having to put some ghetto ball socket that I use on my other figures to get a connection in there in the head. And my biggest concern with the head itself was that it's kind of pliable, and I was worried the paint was going to chip and basically come off. But so far, I should have mentioned that I'm recording this before it's being reviewed, so I'm not entirely sure what notes were given, but hoping they're good. Besides that, I did sand down the body a bit so it could, the paint had something to go onto. And I did end up recording some of the actual mixing process, so you can see what I kind of do when it comes to painting these figures. Now, like I said, I start off with that pink, and I go from there basically with natural tones to either make it darker or make it lighter. So it's an easy process. I just wish I had thinned my paint. That's ultimately the biggest thing when it comes to painting these heads, is that you have to do it by layer, and I'm impatient. At least with this project, I had some stuff going on, so I didn't have time to give it as much attention as I wanted to. But beside point, then your paints basically you go by layer, and it'll come out more natural, and it'll look more like a skin tone as you get rid of the paintbrush strokes, essentially. But like I said, I didn't do that with this project, and the head kind of came out wonky, but from afar and on camera you can't really see it. So that was my main battle that I fought with this guy. And as you can see here, essentially you're just adding those colors, and whether you're going for a darker complexion or a lighter complexion, that basically dictates what paint you're using to tint the peach, or I forget what color it is, but basically that's the whole concept here. And you do add some, I did add some yellow, I should say. And I should note that these acrylic paints that you get from, you know, Walmart, they essentially dry darker than you think when they're wet. So that's something else to keep in mind as well. So yeah, like I said, fortunately for me, the head sculpt took the paint well. It's just a matter of time as to whether or not it's gonna flake off or not, but we shall see. I'll ultimately know what's gonna happen with these entries, but I'm hoping he has a good home at the end of this, because I did think it turned out well. Even though we're gonna go back to this creative thing, I was looking at it, I was customizing it with the various parts that I had, and lo and behold, I ended up just recreating Falcon with a missing left arm. But I don't know, maybe not everyone sees that, but to me, that I just so happened to see something with Falcon in it, and yeah, I was like, well, that sucks, because I was trying to go for a unique look here. But regardless, I do like how he ended up. You know, it just shows an adventurer who, you know, may have gotten hurt, but is still back in action, and, you know, can still do what the other Joes can do, and maybe even more now. So yeah, essentially, with the shortcomings of this project, I hope this motivates you guys to kind of get more experimental with these figures. You know, of course everyone's gonna go towards the mainstream stuff, but my favorite part about this hobby is being able to customize to your heart's desire. Sure, it's easy to buy a figure and put it together, but when it's something you've touched and you've added and modified pieces to, I think it becomes more unique and more personal to you. So yeah, you know what, I will come back to this project, or a project similar to this. I just don't know when, but yeah, it was a fun project, and ultimately I think that was the goal for the challenge, was to get the creative juices flowing. So I appreciate G.I. Joe The Lost Chronicles for putting this out there and allowing me to enter at the very least. So with that said, here's the final look. I ended up using various bits and pieces that I have in my, you know, countless, endless amounts of storage for G.I. Joe, or various 1/6 scale parts. I tried to lean more towards G.I. Joe because I didn't want to, you know, mix too many contemporary pieces with it. But yeah, the tiger stripe pants were G.I. Joe. The boots, I believe, are later G.I. Joe. The harness is G.I. Joe. The belt is actually World Peacekeepers. The shirt is third party. The beret is G.I. Joe, I know that much. And the dog tags are World Peacekeepers. And I think plenty of the pouches are G.I. Joe as well. But aside from that, I did add a tattoo, and I think that was just a spur of the moment kind of thing, and I think it kind of balanced out what's going on the left side. And for that leather piece, I got it from a random action figure I had, but I no longer have. If I can remember what it is, I'll leave a picture here. But yeah, I just had that, you know, one of the best, or one tip I can give you guys in terms of kit bashing is basically become a hoarder. You know, you just have random bits and pieces to choose from, and ultimately, if you do this long enough, you'll find something that you can utilize later on, and that's what that leather piece turned out to be. So yeah, if I were to do this project again, like I said, I would thin the paints better and probably do it in the summertime so I could prime the body instead of having to sand down bits and pieces of it. But essentially, I am happy with it. You know, it's just a matter of knowing the mistakes I made, and the solutions to those mistakes would be more patience than what I did. So yeah, let me know what you think down below in the comments, and if you've got an idea for a custom project, feel free to let me know. I'm just curious to see what everyone's thinking. You know, I'm sure there's a figure out there that everyone you would want, but hasn't been made. So with that said, I appreciate you checking this video out, and I will leave a link to the rules set by G.I. Joe The Lost Chronicles so you can see whether or not I fulfilled the requirements. But with that, I thank you all for watching, and if you feel so inclined, please like, comment, and or subscribe. I very much appreciate it. I'll catch you all next time.